Welcome back to Exploring Ways to Wellness. I'm Sarah, and today we're diving into something completely different. The fascinating connection between flavour and our psychological well-being. You might be wondering what this has to do with wellness. Well, think about it. When did you last truly taste your food? When did you last use a meal as a moment for mindfulness? Or reach for a particular flavour because it made you feel better? My guest today is Craig, who works in the flavour industry, and our conversation opened my eyes on just how powerful our relationship with taste and smell really is. From the COVID pandemic showing us what happens when we lose our senses, to certain flavours that can transport us back to childhood in seconds, to the way that mindful eating can become a form of meditation. We'll explore how flavour connects to memory and emotion, why some foods become our go-to comfort choices, and how something as simple as really tasting your morning coffee could become a wellness practice. Let's explore the surprising world of flavour psychology, how it impacts our well-being every single day. I'm thrilled to have Craig with me here today to talk about flavour. Having had a background in the food industry for a little while back in the day myself, and working on a flavour event with Craig for the last 10 years or so.
Yeah. Try not to think about how long it's been, really.
That's it. I thought it would be quite interesting for us to have a chat where we look at the interaction between flavour and well-being and feelings of wellness. So thank you, Craig, for joining us.
No, thanks for the invite. I'm really looking forward to it. Has to be said, it's my first ever podcast, so let's hope it's a good one.
No pressure.
No pressure whatsoever. No.
No, I'm really looking forward to this conversation because I know we've had a couple of chats in the past about, skirting over this issue anyway. But I just find it really interesting that, particularly in the wellness space, where we think about things like diet and being linked to our well-being, and there's so many elements around food, such as flavour, that can impact our experience.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think it was brought into sharp relief during the COVID situation, where a very large number of people lost their sense of flavour or their sense of taste or aroma. And many of them subsequently went on to have a complete change in their sensory response to aroma. So they'd be smelling things that they were familiar with, would completely disappear. And as their sense of smell and taste came back, it was distorted. So they'd be smelling coffee and it'd be smelling like rotten vegetables or drains, and it became completely unpalatable. So that had a huge impact on people's mental health and well-being. And it just brought into sharp focus how important that sense of, if you like, flavour is in your life. So if you have to take those senses away for a year, it really impacts your quality of life, your mental well-being. So that for me was a bit of an eye-opening kind of period to take me a little bit back to thinking about the importance of it to us all. And I suppose when we talk about food, we talk about flavour in its kind of holistic sort of sense. But what obviously it often is taken for granted that you've got the sense of taste and the sense of smell, which combines to give you the flavour.
Right.
Yeah. And even the sense of smell plays a massive part in our enjoyment of food and our sensing the different ingredients. And what people may not appreciate is that you experience this over a period of time. Once you've eaten something, all the flavours are released, the volatile flavours, what we'd call aroma, And you can sense those with your nose first, even before you eat the food. But then during eating and during swallowing, some of those flavors that are not so immediately noticeable then make their way to this, basically the sense organ, this olfactory bulb that sits just below the brain.
Right.
So it's even just on the basic physical aspects of eating some food, it's very complicated the way we sense those things that are released during eating. And I think that's what really attracted me to this whole area, is because of how complex it is.
Mm.
It's not
Yeah,
just
it sounds
like,
even more complex than I had appreciated. The fact that not only is there a flavour to things, but it can change depending on your interaction with it. So how you're chewing or how you're experiencing that.
oh, absolutely. Just the aroma it can be so evocative, can take you back to childhood, even before you start eating the food. You just get that, all the salivary glands get going. It's a comfort food, if you like. And there's lots of emotion wrapped up in your experience of eating. And people are talking about it a lot more now.
That's particularly what sparked my interest from moving into that sort of wellness and emotional space, is the fact that these sensory areas, such as smell and taste, can bring forward memories. They can bring forward emotions that either we want to have or we don't want to have. There's sort of all sorts of flavors, aren't there, that we associate with different things as well. We
And the-
like these shortcuts, don't we? So, if something has citrus in it, we expect it to be it to have vitamin C in it, and it to have something that will help with our immunity. Or there's a lot with spices, for example, and then it's the anti-inflammatory properties. If something tastes of chocolate, then it will give us a mood boost, maybe, and cocoa ceremonies and things that people are weaving in these perceived benefits based on the flavor, how that can make you feel,
yes.
and how we can therefore use them as part of technique to bring about remembering something or having positive memories and positive experiences, and how maybe the industries can use them for benefit, but also there is going to be a danger in manipulating them.
No, absolutely. But we can only be easily manipulated if they're tapping into something that is evocative,
That
does
exist.
does give us something that we actually crave.
It's also that perception of what's nice, isn't it? So we've got
That's
sort of,
that's true.
so if something
Yeah,
tastes sweet, then that means it's nice. And if
that's
something's
right.
bitter, we maybe think, oh no, that's not good for us, or it's
Yeah.
which isn't always necessarily the case. And I wonder where that's
Yeah.
come from.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, over the years, certainly in the West, our palates have been, I think, manipulated, modified, adjusted, for example, to have food that is more sweet or is more salty on the savory side of things. And it's clearly been shown that it's pretty much habit, because I know industry have run many trials where they can reduce the amount of salt and sugar in products. A lot of the hard work is just reformulating with less of those things in. That doesn't impact particularly with salt, the functional elements of salt, like partly as a preservative and also to help with the structure of some food types. But if it's just down to taste, you can often reduce, say, by 20% the amount of sugar or salt in there, for example, without people particularly noticing.
Yeah.
And you can wean people off. I mean, how many people have used to drink tea or coffee with sugar in and then they stopped? Didn't replace it with artificial or anything, they just stopped. But they did it by slowly reducing the amount. I mean, I did that myself donkeys years ago. And you drink it now and you think, well, that's nice. Why did I add sugar to it? It's
Yeah, it's like habit forming, isn't it?
is it? Yeah. So I think we're into habits, and obviously part of the habits come from family and the rituals about eating, and as a child, and the experiences you had with food.
Is that again linked to these memories, do you think?
Oh, I think
Oh,
so.
my
I mean,
God.
especially if, you're generally associating things with good memories.
Yeah. And
You
it's
know.
then it's that comfort element again, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think many people in the past would have been sat around the table as a family, eating their food, maybe talking, taking their time over their food. Whereas we've shifted, and this is a bit of a bugbear for me, we've shifted towards essentially not just fast food, but fast eating,
Yes.
or the convenience of, sitting in front of telly with whatever type of meal it is. You're not concentrating on the food,
Yeah,
the
I'm with
smells,
you totally. I've
you know.
really noticed that as well. We don't taste our food anymore, do
No,
we?
yeah.
You know,
I think there's a lot
there
of
is
that.
so much.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of that. One of the things that's come out in the science is taking your time to eat and chew and having the texture of food that kind of forces you to chew does have an impact on the amount you eat and
Mm,
how full you feel. And it made me think, well, also, what can encourage that is if you're thinking of the aromas and the taste of your food and you just take the time to actually enjoy it.
yeah.
And for me, it can be almost like a meditative state. You're
Well,
there and you're enjoying every moment. If you go out for a meal, for example, you're enjoying the atmosphere of the restaurant. You're enjoying the food that's put in front, the way it's displayed, the color of it,
yeah.
but
The
the
tasting
smell of it as
menus,
well.
they're all, it's
All
all
the
little
tasting menus.
sensory experiences, isn't it?
And there's always the examples, these big endless buffets where you can walk in and eat as much
Mm,
as you like for a tenner or something, which is clearly, the opposite end of the scale. But I think in some ways the science is catching up to some of the behaviors, I think now, where we're
mm,
looking at our habits of eating. And it's not just the food that's placed in front of us, it's how we approach the food, it's how we experience the food.
I
And
know, for example, in the mindfulness episode we did touch on food from the perspective of a mindful exercise. How does this make me feel, and what does it taste like? And just, having those moments to really concentrate on something other than all the craziness that's going on in the day, whatever you're having your break for lunch, or you're having a snack, and using those moments that we all have during the day, which are opportunities for us to direct our attention towards something that we're doing that can give our brain a rest from, all the meetings and everything else that can take over.
absolutely, your brain needs to switch off. So when you start up again, you're actually thinking more effectively, thinking more creatively.
Yeah.
And that's clearly part of the mindfulness as we now know it,
Yeah.
is intrinsic to that kind of break from, as you say, all the chaos or all the spreadsheets or whatever. And yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
And within that, then you can possibly use the food and that opportunity to have that sort of taste experience or flavor
oh,
experience.
absolutely. And
To aid.
that's got to help. Yes. Yeah, that's right. That helps you to take you away from all the other experiences, all the other sensory inputs that are bombarding you because because those senses are very strong. Once you experience the taste, the flavor, the aroma of something, it can stick with you for tens of years,
Yeah.
um, to the point where, a certain aroma, perfume, scent, it take you back decades to
Mm.
some event or some person or some situation that you remember. Hopefully a good situation.
Yes.
That's not necessarily so, but I think often they tend to be the things that stick in your mind. If we had to take a bit of learning, I think, from this conversation is, take a little bit more time to just enjoy that moment or those moments when you have got some food in front of you. Just shut out the rest of the world. Some people like to listen to music on their headphones, listen to podcasts. And one thing we've learned is what you get out of the eating experience, the sensory experience of eating and aroma of food can be influenced by the background noise, the music that you listen to. And in fact, the whole experience of smelling, tasting, eating is influenced by your sight, what you see in front of you, different colors, different sounds, different music will all change the kind of enjoyment you get out of that eating experience. And actually, how you sense those aromas and those tastes. And this is pretty much new stuff now that we're really discovering how the different senses interact to influence how you experience the aroma of a plated meal or the taste of the food, the saltiness, the sweetness of a certain dish, which is absolutely fascinating. And
yeah, it is. It's really, really interesting. So, how we experience these things can change based on so many different elements. I mean, I guess that, that color can influence it. And to some extent, as you said, you can play around with color and flavor. And I'm
absolutely,
eating this, and it's a yellow sweet, but it tastes of strawberry.
Oh, absolutely. I suppose past 20 years, I suppose a lot of the top chefs have played around with this greatly, making creations that look one thing but actually taste another.
That's really interesting, isn't it? Because again, it's how our brain is perceiving something and how it's reacting as a result.
Yeah.
And there is an element of that can be manipulated maybe by the industry, but at the same time, then is there a possibility for it to do good in somebody that can't maybe consume certain foods or whatever? Is there also an opportunity there to sort of give suggestions that mean your brain and your experience interprets it in a certain way that actually gives you some of the benefits?
Yeah.
So you feel like you're more likely to fight off disease because you're having this jelly, because you've got that psychological element to it. You could benefit from it on a physical sense.
Yeah, I think, it's, I think the industry is moving in that direction. One of the curiosities in my brain has been around those people that don't have that good experience of food, and how can you make that experience better for them? So people that are losing their sense of taste, people that are going through chemotherapy, for example, often lose their sense of taste. So I know there's a lot of work going into providing all those tweaks that will help them enjoy that as much as possible. Because as I touched on at the beginning, this enjoyment of aroma and taste, it has a really big impact on mental health. And if you're losing those senses, or you lose your appetite, or for whatever reason, using all the knowledge that we now have can be put together to help encourage people to eat the right types of food, to eat enough food. As you're getting older, you lose your appetite, and it's partly because you're losing your sense of taste and smell. All of those people are still wanting to have nutritious food, but they also need the encouragement, one way or another, psychologically, to help them enjoy it.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of work in that area, and it's either, ensuring that there is enough flavoring in there. There's, as in flavor ingredients in there to stimulate the salivary glands, for example, and also put more things that are more pungent and aromatic to compensate for that loss. So there is a lot of work going down that route as well. And I think, sometimes it can be seen, oh, that might be a bit of a niche area. But when you consider the aging population we've got, there's a massive number of people out there that would be consumers of these types of products. One of the few enjoyments they may have is eating nice food.
Yeah, yeah. And often, again, cheaper food can be sort of seen as quite bland in flavour, can't it? Beans and pulses and things that are actually quite good for you, healthy for you, and could fill you up, or replace more expensive food items. Get those herbs and chili flakes and adding that flavour
can make such a massive difference to, rather than looking at the plate in front of you and thinking, oh gosh, here we go again.
Yes, well, absolutely. I mean, and I think also we've seen the growing interest in vegetarian and vegan diets. And even if it is taking out only a proportion of people's meat from their diets, people are more likely to eat more plant-based foods if they're not seen as bland.
Oh, to be honest, if you look at the aisle with the herbs and spices on, there's just such a massive array out there that maybe we should be a bit more adventurous. And actually, there's a sort of all sorts of food items out there that maybe we wouldn't have considered because of our palates. I would say I've started looking at the ingredients of some of these, because some of them are actually quite expensive, the blends of spices, herbs and spices. And when you actually look at the back of them, often the first ingredient is either salt or somewhere in there is sugar.
Yeah. No, absolutely. No,
so
that's
maybe
true.
we haven't completely.
We're not quite there yet. That is true, yes. I mean, and going for, ready prepared mixes and sauces and pastes, etc. It gives you the taste and flavors that you might be looking for. But yes, the caveat is they're often full of salt and sugar.
But what do you think it is about salt and sugar that we crave so much? Is it a sort of learned thing, or is it something deeper than that?
They're flavor enhancing ingredients. And I think in the Western diet, we've really suffered from ignoring the benefits of other flavor enhancing ingredients. Use chili, use more herbs, more spices to give you a wider palette of flavors. Because what it does is it lifts the whole experience of the food. You're not just simply bringing in the flavor of onion. It's a common thing that we've done in the past. That not just is the flavor of the onion, it kind of lifts the other flavors in there as well.
Yeah.
And that's what salt does. So we've got to the stage where we keep adding more and more salt to things. But I think part of the trick is you wean yourself off it. You actually then spend time considering the actual flavor of the food itself rather than the salted version. But what happens more in the East is glutamate is used, the dreaded monosodium glutamate,
Right.
which affects what has become known as the fifth taste, umami, which some of your listeners might know about. And this is like a flavor enhancing ingredient. And it behaves a bit differently to salt, but it's essentially there to enhance the flavor of the whole product, which was demonized in the West through what is now considered maybe not such well-established science.
Okay.
My diplomatic hat on. But you look at the populations in Eastern Asia where they use it all the time. We need to have a relook. We are revisiting these kind of concepts. So I think, we're starting to look at using a wider range of ingredients, bringing a lot more pungency to food, I think, than we used to do. Well, certainly in our lifetime anyway. And also we're trying to go away from using meat. And meat contains a lot of these ingredients. Once you roast meat, you're generating lots and lots of flavor with the fats and the proteins and the aroma that comes from it. If you remove that from your dishes, of course, you're also losing the flavor enhancing properties that come with that as well. Combinations that are happening during the cooking process, which lifts the flavor of the rest of the dish. We've got to work on finding replacements to use to bring those flavor enhancing impacts. And again, it comes back to making the food be enjoyable. We've got a range of ingredients and flavors and aromas and things to be able to play with. So we find, we go into various recipe books or restaurants and that. We've got so much more wider choice of flavors, aromas, tastes.
And influences from many different cultures as well.
Absolutely. I mean, from my perspective, it's a great time to be involved in the kind of flavor sector, if you like, which is where most of my work takes place. Because one, you're dealing with something that's very complex. you're dealing with something that has a real impact on people's mental well-being, and it's so important, and it's something we take for granted so much.
Yeah.
In itself, the food manufacturing industry is the biggest manufacturing industry in the UK, I believe. And that's always forgotten and put to one side because it's just taken for granted. And part of that is producing food, and that's producing crops. So choosing the right potatoes with good flavour that can be cooked well, and to produce the right kind of, flavour that you want in your food, as right through to factory produced ready meals, if you like. There's so much work going into now the ready meals you can get that's so important for older people who haven't got necessarily the ability or the inclination to be able to create tasty, nutritional, beneficial meals. So I think there are a lot of good things happening. So I think we've certainly come a long way in understanding how we experience food. What we need to, I think, work on more is helping people make the most of that experience.
Yeah.
And especially those that have poor smell and taste through various, it might be illness, treatments, or just age. And I think there's a lot of scope there. And especially as we begin to understand the emotional impact of losing that and the emotional benefits of having nice food and being able to take the time to experience it.
Yeah, definitely. Some really, really important points there. You mentioned as well about the cooking process, and that was something I just wanted to touch on as well, about how the way we prepare our food can have an influence on the flavour that it has and our enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe you mentioned with, ready meals, classically, yes, you have to add salt to a ready meal often to make it palatable, but it could be to do with the cooking process as well, because it's, it's going in a microwave or it's going in an oven, as opposed to some, now there's the air fryers and things like that. And how do they influence the flavour and that flavour experience we have and our enjoyment, the result, do you think?
Well, as soon as you change the type of cooking you do, you are going to change the flavour.
From a psychological perspective as well, whether all those different elements are coming into the way that you're cooking food, and it's that sort of experience of preparation as well.
I mean, I agree. I mean, I love cooking. I mean, I really enjoy cooking, but I treat it a bit like an experiment, really. So I'll go to the recipe book and then I'll see, okay, there's this in there, oh, it's got celery in there. Celery is added to a lot of things. Again, it's one of those ingredients that pulls up the flavour in stews and broths and this kind of thing. I hate it. And this will touch on genetics. So genetically, some people are more sensitive to some things than others. It's just genetics.
I'm one of the watercress, aren't there? Watercress is another one you can either don't taste anything or it tastes very, very different.
Coriander is another one. For some people, a large proportion of the population, it just tastes soapy. It doesn't smell of coriander as we know it. What I have learned, though, more is usually better when it comes to flavouring food with herbs and spices. Obviously, with the exception of adding loads of salt and sugar in there.
Actually, one thing, I don't mean to take us back to sugar, but many, many years ago, probably about 20 years ago, I tried to cut all the sugars out of your diet to try and sort of reset your taste buds. And to be honest, I did it as a bit of an experiment. I didn't really believe that it would make such a difference. But it was incredible. I think it was only over a couple of weeks, by cutting sugar out, how sweet things tasted. And I don't necessarily mean products that you think of as being sweet, but even just to have a salad, tomatoes, like everything sort of took on extreme flavour that I wouldn't think of as being strongly flavoured before. But when you're younger, you can always be daring yourself for the most sour sweet or something like that. So maybe it was off the back of years of pushing my taste buds. But I did find it really interesting how I appreciated natural products in a different way.
Now, there could be a lot of psychology going on there because obviously you've consciously reduced the amount of sugar in particular situations. And your brain may well be thinking, searching for sugar, searching for sweetness in everything else that you're eating. But it's a really interesting question. And it does then start making you think, well, yeah, maybe that's part of one of the benefits of cutting out excess sugar or excess salt. Your brain then starts looking for it in other products. By doing that, you're experiencing the flavour and taste. And it's grabbing the attention of your mind to focus more on the food you're eating.
Yeah.
That's
I mean, I have to say, it
interesting.
was a long time ago that I did it.
Yeah.
And, you know, all the sort of more sweeter products are all well and truly back in my diet. But I do find it sort of reset my mindset around those natural products as well. You know, I love a salad now, whereas I would always consider it sort of as a on the side necessity, you know, back when I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, how our brain can associate different experiences with different things. And we do have the ability to change that.
Yeah. No, that's right. Basically, you can't lose by making a change like that. You know, you're not losing anything by trying to reduce the amount of salt and sugar in your diet, for example, because as you've just pointed out, you know, it may mean that you're actually focusing on the flavors that are there more. And so your enjoyment of them is greater. But also, I think it enables you to think more creatively as well. Salad example. Past few years, I've been eating more salads, but it was kind of kicking and screaming to eat them in some ways, knowing that they are better for me. But it made me then start experimenting. Well, add a little bit of something different in there. A couple of sultanas, a bit of pickled beetroot, a bit of, a little bit of cheese, a bit of different type of cheese on there, rather than it just being leafy vegetables with, let's say, tomatoes on there. And what I've found is I actually enjoy it now. I enjoy eating a mixed salad now. Whereas, a number of years ago, I'd have run out of the room screaming. I like the idea of having adventures with food. So, I mean, I recognize, it's time and it may be money, but not necessarily. But I think it's worth taking the time. Look what's in the cupboard.
In terms of preparation of food, of course, there's also that sometimes ceremonial ways of bringing food into.
Sunday lunches always had a certain ritual about them. There's obviously regional rituals like tea drinking in Japan could be very ritualized. And I think there are a number of examples that a lot of cultures can relate to that way. And it's that whole experience around the eating and drinking that it does take you to a different place. It takes you away from everyday life. It focuses you around that whole experience.
And that opportunity, I guess, for interacting with people in a slightly different way. So whether that's in a ceremony where you're respectful or you're experiencing things on a ceremonial basis, or whether you're around the dinner table on a Sunday having a roast dinner, and it's an opportunity to have conversations maybe that you wouldn't have done otherwise, that can bring up things that maybe are affecting your well-being.
Yeah, and I think that's very true. We live very busy lives, and I think it's one of the pleasures and joys that we often miss out on. It's when you're lucky enough to have that family situation there, and you as a child you can almost smell the roast chicken from your bedroom, and it drags you down to the dining room, a place you want to be, and. Yeah, I think often those kind of elements are lost. Where they are lost, I think we should kind of rediscover. And if you have that situation to work on, create your own rituals and take yourself away from the TV, the screens, the iPads, and just even if it's just a simple preparation of some food,
Mm,
and then sitting, eating, and drinking with no disturbance. Just focus on that moment.
yeah,
It's being
yeah,
present. That's the word I'm thinking of. It's being present
definitely. Yeah,
in those moments. Because for a lot of us, life is chaos and life is a challenge. But I
yeah,
think the benefits of doing that, it could make a difference to somebody's day.
yeah,
You know,
definitely. Those are opportunities, aren't they, to stop and appreciate and enjoy
yes, yeah, and try and
and really
put
give you that
aside all the
boost of,
other worries and hustle and bustle and chaos around you.
yeah.
I think
And
so
I
it
know,
works. It works for me. Oh,
yeah, but I know even in rugby, there's opportunities to sort of even meet people through food. There's various pizza evenings or whatever, but there's also from a more spiritual perspective, they have things like cacao ceremonies
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
things like that. So it's interesting. It's wider than just purely what you're putting in your mouth. There is clearly a link between flavor and psychology and the link between the experience you have eating food and mindfully enjoying the sensations and the flavors that you're getting from it and the sort of overall experience that you're having.
I think that's absolutely right, and I think it's some of it takes you back. You go back to I've just started eating cream of chicken soup of
Right.
all things, oxtail soup as well. For some reason, those two particular flavors take me right back to good times back as a child. I don't know why,
Yeah.
but so I just thought, well, I'll buy them again. And so it's sat in my cupboard now as standby comfort food. And that's got to really tell us a lot about how strong an influence psychologically food flavor has on us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it doesn't have to be a strong flavor in order to do that, because both of the products you mentioned aren't particularly strongly flavored, are they?
No,
Um,
it's just evocative.
yeah,
It just it's, and I'm sure everybody's got an example that they can point to.
definitely. And it's just being conscious of it, isn't it? And being able to reach for those things that make you feel good at the moments when you need a boost.
Oh, absolutely. And we talk about comfort food all the time, don't we? I mean, usually it's a bit of indulgence, chocolate, or something, but it could also be just, yeah, a tin of oxtail soup.
Yeah.
Why not?
Huh?
The other thing, we kind of touched on it. It's like the things we remember being told by our parents when you sat at the table. And one of them was always, chew your food. And it was always like, because as a child, you knock it all down to try and get out of the door. And my mother would always say, chew your food. It's bad for you if you don't chew your food. And hey, presto, I'm now 60 something. And I'm working with researchers that are producing scientific publications saying how much better for you is it when you chew your food. I haven't gone back to my mother and said, Mum, you were right.
You're right. All those years ago.
I can only
We're
take
talking,
so many told you so's.
yeah. We talk about some of this ancient wisdom in some of the podcasts, which we've then translated into modern day. But actually, some of it has come down, and we're just assuming it's what our mums said, and therefore we're rejecting it.
Yeah.
But actually, it usually comes from somewhere, doesn't it? So it's interesting to
That's
see
right.
the research is almost catching up.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true.
I love it. Fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed our chat today, Craig.
No, likewise.
There were so many elements to it. This link
Yes.
between feeling good and flavour really came through strong. So thank you so much for giving us your insights. If anybody would like to hear some more of his thoughts about science, then by all means have a look at his LinkedIn post.
There should be a health warning attached to that.
So thank you for joining us today, Craig.
Yeah, thanks for asking me along. It's been good fun.
What a fascinating conversation with Craig. I have to admit, I'll never look at my meals the same way again. The key takeaways for me? First, that losing our sense of taste and smell as many experience through illness or aging, has a profound impact on mental health and quality of life. It really highlighted just how fundamental these senses are to our well-being. Second, the power of mindful eating. Craig's description of eating as almost a meditative state really resonated with me. Taking time to actually taste our food, to notice the aromas, to be present when we're consuming. That's a wellness practice hiding in plain sight. Third, being more adventurous with flavour when making healthier choices. Whether you're trying meat-free days or just wanting to make vegetables more appealing, don't forget about your herb and spice cupboard. As Craig pointed out, we often reach for salt and sugar when actually a bit of chilli, some fresh herbs or different spices could transform a simple dish and make healthy eating genuinely enjoyable. And I loved our discussion about comfort foods and how certain flavours can transport us instantly back to positive memories. Whether it's Craig's chicken soup or your own childhood favourite, these aren't just indulgences. They're emotional anchors that genuinely boost our well-being when we need it. Perhaps most importantly, we talked about slowing down. In our world of fast food and eating in front of screens, simply taking time to chew properly, to taste our food and create rituals around eating. These small acts can have a big impact on how we feel. Here's my challenge to you and me this week. Try having at least one mindful meal. Put away the distractions. Really taste what you're eating. Notice the flavours and the textures, and maybe raid that spice rack while you're at it. See if you can turn mealtime into both a moment of presence and a flavour adventure. Craig mentioned that his mother always told him to chew his food properly, and decades later, science is proving she was right. Sometimes the simplest wisdom, whether it comes from our parents or from just paying attention to what makes us feel good, is the most powerful. If you've enjoyed this exploration, don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. I've got more fascinating conversations coming up that will challenge how you think about wellness and give you practical tools to feel better every day. Until next time, I'm Sarah, and remember, there's many paths to wellness, and sometimes they involve consciously appreciating opportunities to pause and concentrate on something delicious.